Hey, good afternoon and happy December, everybody. It's December for us as we record this. I don't know when you're watching this, but the topic that we're going to be talking about today is kind of relevant to the time frame. I have Shannon Cheney Whitson on here with me again.
Hello.
Hello. We are back at you with some more topics around health and wellness, and in particular right now because we're coming up on the holiday season and New Year's. We wanted to talk a little bit about our favorite New Year's resolutions. If I'm sure that myself included, I don't know how many times I've made New Year's resolutions, and with more or less success on some of them, but one of the most popular New Year's resolutions, of course, is to lose weight / get healthy. And so we thought we'd talk a little bit about those resolutions and why they do or don't work, and maybe what some better methodology might be. So, Shannon, I'm sure that at some point in time, I don't know, yours are probably not, wellness related anymore, but do you still make New Year's resolutions on any topic?
Sometimes mine are more like time management and organization related. Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
in my house, like organization is not my top thing.
Yes, I'd have to say that's probably on the top 10 of the resolutions that people make too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, weight loss, time management, organization, all that good stuff. Um, the relative to wellness and weight loss and all of those, we've all made them. And the sad fact is that by mid-February, I think the statistics are that 80% of those resolutions fail. And, for a lot of us, I think when we make those resolutions, we tend to go to extremes. So, I hear from a lot of people that if they're going to, undertake a diet, whether it's for a New Year's resolution or at another time, they're going to do something like right now it's popular to do a keto diet or, intermittent fasting or something like that. But it's something that's somewhat extreme. And those are the types of resolutions that we tend to make when it comes to health and weight loss. And for me, I know you have some opinions on these too, but for me, I think what is often the difficult thing about those types of diets are that they're just hard to maintain long term. So, they may be successful. You may lose weight for a period of time on any type of diet. But if it's not sustainable, then a lot of times you find that you're in the same situation. And 3 months down the road, you've gained the weight back because you've gone back to your former way of eating.
Right. Right. That are like, especially leading up to the New Year's right now, a lot of people are saying the holidays and they have all this food and everything going on. They're like, New Year's is right around the corner. I'm going to try keto with my best friend, or I'm going to try intermittent fasting with this person. And then 6 weeks later, they're like, that was really hard to maintain. Or I did good about 3 days of the week or 5 days of the week. And then the weekends were my cheat days. And then they see people like The Rock, whose cheat days are like 6 large pizzas and 72 pancakes, but he's in the gym 4, 5, 7 hours a day. And so that's just not, I think some people mix the dream world of what they would really like to be, and then they forget reality. And so then the sustainability doesn't quite stay there, and the consistency doesn't stay there because it's so extreme.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes the realization of how long it's going to take to do something really gets overlooked. And so like you didn't gain 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 30 pounds, whatever it was in 2 days or 6 weeks. And like the sustainable healthy way to lose weight is about 1 to 2 pounds a week. And so say you want to lose 50 pounds, well, 1 pound a week would take you a year about. There's 52 weeks in a year. And so if you did that, you would be consistent, building steady habits, find something that's sustainable for your lifestyle instead of this 31-day fix or 90-day challenge or fill in blank here, something that just lasts about this long.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because sometimes, you think about keto or you think about a lot of those types of diets, you have to spend a lot of time, preparing for how to eat that way, or it's just not something that fits well into your lifestyle. So I think about, intermittent fasting, and there's some merit, based on what I've read to how that impacts your body, but a lot of us are social creatures, right? So we go out to dinner, and we go out to dinner at 7 o'clock, not at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And if you're fasting in the evenings, that makes it really tough. So it's just not, to your point, I think if it doesn't fit in your lifestyle ongoing forever, then it's something that's eventually going to fail you. And so it's a lot more foolproof to just build habits that you can maintain in your typical lifestyle. I think one of the other things I always joke about the gym in January, because I've always belonged to a gym, or at least for a long time, and I always dread the gym in January because it's packed, and it's packed for about a month. And then at the end of that month, it goes back to normal, or month-ish, it goes back to normal, and you can do what you do. And I think it's because, we all go in with the best of intentions, at the beginning of the year that, okay, this is when I'm going to get healthy. This is, I'm going to change those habits, and I'm going to go 5 days a week to the gym. And then you kind of lose that spark, or you lose that motivation because you didn't have all the right, oomph behind it to be able to maintain it. And that's why everybody falls off at the end of January or mid-February, whatever the date is. So I think it's, you have to have some other strategy or motivation behind it in order to keep that something that lasts more than just that first month or two of the year.
Right. Well, that's where like a lot of things, like big projects for any kind of work, whether it's working out, whether you work at, I don't know, a big company, any project needs a plan, needs some kind of like pathway that you can go down and be like, this is how we're going to build this house. This is how we're going to run this marathon. This is how we're going to build this car. You can't just willy-nilly and be like, oh, this is fine. And so I see, like, when I used to work in a big corporate gym, like when I used to work in a big, huge gym, everybody would flood, and like every machine is taken, every dumbbell's taken. And you're like, what are you doing? But then it comes down to, what are you doing? A lot of people are standing there and they're doing like 10 bicep curls, and they're like, this looks good. And then they go over to a treadmill, and then they'll kind of migrate over to a leg press, and then they kind of leave, but they haven't done much that's constructive. And then like you might see them come back 2 or 3 times, and they always look lost. It is crowded, so it's overwhelming. There's a lot of options. It's overwhelming. But you can tell that they have zero idea what they want to do, and they're too afraid to talk to anybody. And so then it's like you try and make small talk, but then they're like, you're just selling things. It's like, no, I want you to do well.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an idea. But I think a lot of that is just a lack of planning, a lack of just mapping anything out to make it more bite-sized, make it easier to sustain. And so then it's just a whole lot of, I read this online, I'm going to only eat these fat bombs, and I'm going to not eat for 10 hours a day, and I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And then you lose focus. You're like, okay, I've done it. This happened, or this didn't happen. Okay, I quit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, from the diet perspective, a lot of those things too, the challenge becomes if it involves deprivation. So if you're on some sort of diet that has you, eliminating entire, macronutrients, or something that has you, not eating for an extended period of time, or never having, the treats that you're used to having. Again, while they may work while you're on it, it's difficult to sustain because you feel deprived, and eventually your willpower is not going to be able to overcome that deprivation anymore. So, so being able to make changes, and as you mentioned, make small changes in your habits that are something that you can sustain long term, tends to be a more successful strategy than just taking on an extreme habit that only lasts for a short period of time. So, those small changes might be something like, just subbing out a snack that you typically have for a better option. And maybe that's something you focus on for 2 weeks. Or it might be getting rid of the soda, which is one of my favorite things to start with. It might be getting rid of the soda and subbing that out for something else, or gradually, getting off of that. And you're not going to see, to your point, you're not going to see immediate, dramatic weight loss. And so I think for a society that's used to instant gratification, that's tough. But if you could lose the weight more gradually and sustain it for a long time, that's, in the end, you have to have a little bit more patience for it, but in the end, that's obviously going to be a better option than losing a large amount quickly and then gaining it all back.
Right. Well, and you also have to make it realistic of like, I've had a lot of people say, I want to lose 50 pounds. I want to lose 25 pounds. And it's like, okay, but why? And they'll talk about like over the last couple of years, like, okay, well, when I graduated high school, I weighed this much. And then when I graduated college, I had gained another 25 pounds. And now I'm 50 and I'm 50 pounds heavier than I was when I graduated college. And it's like, okay, but what really in the last like year or so, 6 weeks, whatever it was, really spurned this? And they're like, well, I've gained 5 pounds since like beginning of the year or something like that. You're like, okay, so why is your goal 50? And then when you have to break down the goal and break down what it is, then sometimes instead of being like 50 is a good number, that's what I'm going to do. It's like, but why? And then you make it smaller and you're like, oh, that's a very achievable goal. Like if somebody wants to pay off $100,000 in debt, they don't go, I'm going to pay off $100,000 in debt in a year and I make $50,000. I don't think that works. And so you just have to make your goal match reality.
Yeah.
Talking with my hands a lot, I realize. Sorry.
Making a manageable, looking towards a manageable goal. So I like that a lot. So instead of, staring down the big elephant, it's the whole eating the elephant a bite at a time. Starting with something that looks achievable and working from there, I think is a huge part of it. And then also the planning that you mentioned, having a strategy for doing it. So the gym is a perfect example. So not going to the gym and just wandering around lost because one, you've never used the equipment before, or you're not really sure what the best types of exercises are to do to, meet your goals. Sometimes those types of things do, it's good to have someone help you with it. And so that could be a coach, that could be a trainer, that could be asking the person at the gym, asking them to help you with how the machines work as a very first step, and then just having somebody create a strategy for you. A lot of times too, I think there's a lot of benefit, and I've talked about this a million times before, but there's a lot of benefit to having other people to do it with, because I think that social responsibility or accountability helps a lot when it comes to being able to stick to it. So if you have other people that are working toward a similar goal, really having those people around you support you through it and you support them through it makes a huge difference. So finding your group of people that you can enjoy those things with, or that you can strategize with, is also very helpful.
And sometimes like there's a big push or at least a big interest now of like home gyms and like doing everything in your house. Like there's these really fancy treadmills and bikes and the new mirror thing, which the mirror thing creeps me out.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I'm like, no. But anyway, and so there's all those cool things. Well, I mean, in my house, I have a full gym, but when I'm going to go work out and lift, one of my friends meets me at a different gym. We go to a Y that's closer to her house because I can work out in my house, but I'm like, I'm in my house. And if I just need to do a small thing, or I need my bike trainer or something like that, that's different. But like, if I'm going to lift, I'm like, I'll lift after I put Finn down to his nap. Then he doesn't nap. Or I'm going to go lift after I do X, Y, and Z. And then X, Y, and Z and A, B, C, D happen. And it's 9:30 at night. And I'm like, I'm not going to go lift. But when I make that time to say, I'm going to pack up and leave my house, they have child watch, and I have a friend meeting me, all these things are golden, and I actually go do my workouts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's very true. And that's part of why, you've been creating training schedules for me for how long now? And I probably do know how to do it myself at this point, but having somebody who's keeping me accountable to what I should be doing, and having somebody to talk to about, what do I need to change if something's not working quite right? That's the value in having somebody help you through it as well, is just, even if you think you might have the expertise, a lot of times it just helps to have somebody else to bounce things off of, to be able to hold you to it, or to help motivate you when things get a little tougher.
Well, and sometimes it takes somebody else to give you, which I found this a lot with like the ultra running community, like since I started running more trails and stuff, you need permission sometimes to take a small break. And then remember, you can start over again. Like you're not starting over, but like you're taking a small break to heal. And I think that's where a lot of people fall off, because they think they've screwed something up, or they've gotten hurt, or they got sick, or these things happened in life. And then they're like, oh, I'm done. And then they lose track of time. And then next thing you know, it's the next New Year's. And so they have to start over. But sometimes having that coach to be like, okay, yeah, you twisted your ankle, you need a few weeks off, or these things happen, and remind you that the answer is staring you in your face. And you're like, oh, right, I would do that. And so, like, I have a coach. I have somebody that tells me if I get stuck with something, they're like, did you do this? And I'm like, oh, right, good point. And so, because I forget. Because when you have somebody else, like, telling you, you're like, okay, fine, I'll listen. And then you, like, kind of stay on the path. And then they're like, take a couple weeks off. You're not going to die. Like,
right.
all right. You're not going to lose all your fitness. All right, fine. And you come back, and a lot of times you come back stronger. And you don't feel like you have to start all the way over. So you can lose your motivation, wait for the next challenge to start up, wait for, like, your friend can't come anymore, and then next thing you know, all the weight that you've taken off is back plus some, and it's a cycle.
Right. And I think what you mentioned in the beginning too about, again, the time of year, so it's the holidays, and so a lot of people think, I'm just going to indulge for the next 3-4 weeks until the end of the year, and then start, come New Year's, I'm going to start this perfect diet. And so we tend to time block these things. And then in my mind, part of the problem with that is it's then not a lifestyle you're creating, right? It's a phase that doesn't last. So just like, the mentality, if we can form the mentality that it's not just, I'm going to indulge over the holidays and then I'm going to start, it's always about I'm going to start my diet on Monday thing, right? It should be a lifestyle that, yes, you can indulge from time to time, and have fun with it. Life is meant to be fun, right? But you get right back on track afterwards. So the holidays don't have to be 4 weeks of indulgence. Maybe you have 2 or 3 parties where you're like, okay, there's going to be some really good dessert there, and I'm gonna enjoy it. But then the next day, I'm going to go back to eating, the healthy things that I usually eat, and I'm going to go back to, I'm going to get my walk in, my run in, my workout in, and so it's not a phase that you're implementing at different times of the year. It's truly a lifestyle that you've created that you continually go back to.
Right. When you brought up something with the time blocking thing that jogged my memory is, a lot of people say, oh, it's really hard to get back into the eating part because I got so used to eating junk, because you have Halloween and then you have Thanksgiving. And if you're like my family, you have like 2 or 3 Thanksgivings, 7 Christmases, a couple Halloweens, they all like go together. And it's like, you're right, you got used to eating those things. Well, now you're trying to make the change to eat better. And you need to give yourself the exact same amount of time. If Halloween's in October and then New Year's isn't January, you've got 2.5 months of junk. But very rarely do people let 2.5 months of solid, consistent work go through. They kind of start tapering off, or being like, oh, well, I screwed up, so I'm going to a dinner tonight, so what I eat for breakfast and lunch don't count. Instead of like eating a good breakfast and a good lunch and then letting dinner be fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of I think we all have that mentality sometimes of, if you're following a plan or you have a strategy and then you have one bad meal, and so a lot of us start to think, oh, well, then I might as well just throw it out the window, and know the exact opposite should be the case. Well, yeah, you have one, where maybe it didn't quite fit what you were planning, but just get right back on it. And that's, again, what creates kind of that long-term success, is if you can make it work well enough in your lifestyle that it's something that you continually go back to, and it's not a phase of something that you're trying to implement.
Right. Yeah, and don't do something you dread. Like, you don't have to eat kale and Brussels sprouts and asparagus if you don't want to.
Right.
But you could stop eating the donuts and the Pepsi and
yes,
those kind of things. That'll be a good start.
Although the roasted Brussels sprouts, people aren't convinced, but they're delicious.
I'm one of those that's not convinced.
You're not yet? Oh,
see, I never wrapped them in bacon, and I still don't like them. I can't do it. I've tried.
Yeah.
So yes, there are a million other leafy green things that are really good for you. I just don't have to eat Brussels sprouts and kale and asparagus. I use those for a reason. I hate them all. I can't get myself to like them. They all taste like grass.
That's funny. I didn't know. You are like my husband. The asparagus he'll eat, but yeah, the kale and Brussels sprouts, no.
Yeah, I'll eat the asparagus if like I'm at somebody's house and I'm like, this is delicious. But then I don't eat it ever again.
Yes.
The rest of my diet is pretty good. So I think I'm okay eliminating 3 foods that are like the superfood healthy.
Right. And similarly, on the opposite side of the spectrum, you mentioned the donuts and the soda and everything else. Yeah. I will say, so the race that I did last weekend, the half marathon here that I did, their thing afterwards was that they had Holtman's donuts at the end. And so if you're local, you know, Holtman's donuts are kind of a thing around here. And I can't tell you the last time I had a donut, but I did grab one of the donuts, and I ate like 4 bites, and then I was like, I'm on sugar overload and that's all I need. And then I tossed it, but I had to, you know, you had to try it and see. And it was a good 3 bites, and that was it.
Well, it's so funny, like people get used to eating a certain way, and then once they start eating healthy again, like, or just starting eating healthy, then they'll eat something that they used to think was good, like say lean cuisine, and then they'll eat that and they're like, this is awful. And they're like, give me back my real food. Like, that doesn't even taste like food anymore.
Yes.
That's a point. Like, I've had people tell me that they would go through the drive-thru at Wendy's or McDonald's or Burger King and get nuggets, and then they'll stop eating them. And then just like a crazy schedule happens. Like, I swung through Wendy's and I got their spicy nuggets or something. And it's like, oh, okay. And they're like, and then I was deathly ill. Like, well, your body wasn't used to that kind of grease and whatever coating they put on them and the chicken. And they're like, that was awful. I can't eat junk food anymore. You've ruined me. And I'm like, good.
That's the point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll live longer.
Your taste buds definitely do change. And that's a good thing, because that's, you know, back to the point of it, not, you shouldn't try to just do it in phases when you create the lifestyle and you eat like that all the time. That way, you know, your body has gotten so used to that type of food that you don't want the other stuff anymore. And you're laughing because you see the light keep going off and on in my room. So my office, I would show you, but that you'd see the rest of my mess that I have around me. I have this tower garden that comes on automatically every so often with the lights. And so those are the lights that you're seeing come back on every so often and illuminating me from the side.
Good angle.
Yes.
Good
Yes.
light.
Yes. Well, good. I think, you know, what else do we have to say about New Year's resolutions? I think we've kind of hit our major points that, you know, the resolutions tend not to work. We've all heard that before. And I really think, you know, it's the going to extremes. It's the fact that, you know, you're not building a lifestyle. You're really kind of just doing a one-time event that's not likely to last. And if you can build the habits that lead more to, you know, changes to your lifestyle, that's really where you're going to have more success in being able to create, you know, get to your long-term goal.
Right. Create the plan, follow it, make the roadmap from start to finish. That way you're not wandering aimlessly. And you'll be pretty good.
Definitely. Yes. Good. Well, all right. I like it. We will, you know, we've got lots of ideas for more discussions to have. So we'll keep coming back at you with a lot of these things. We just thought this topic was a good one for the time frame, and it, you know, it's applicable all the time. But as we all start to think about the end of the decade, really this time, I think it's a topic to be discussed one more time, and eventually, hopefully, one little thing will kind of will sink in and help you get to where you're going next time. So any last thoughts?
I think that's about it.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you again soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.